Okay, go ahead.
Thanks, Stephanie. Oh, wow. Yeah. Monday, October 13th at 6:04, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Stephanie, you already did warn a notice, so we'll just skip right through it since you've already done it, but for the recording, can I just get you to confirm it?
Yes, we do have all board members present, so we do have a quorum, and I certify that public notice of this meeting was posted 48 hours in advance in accordance with Florida Statute 720.
Thank you. It is a one agenda item tonight, which is the 2026 budget. So with that,
Thanks, James. Thanks, everyone, for attending. Stephanie, second slide, please. So if anybody who's been to the last two budget presentations for the prior years, this slide actually looks somewhat familiar. So this is just looking at where it currently stands before any board discussion, or if there's any areas we want to make further changes to. But currently, for the standalone homes, it would be a monthly increase of $27. Which will be a 4 to 4.3% increase, depending on 40, 60, 80, etc. And the villa would be a $30 monthly increase, which would be a 4.3% increase. And in a couple of slides, I'll go over the differences between the well, there's a slight bigger increase in the villa. Next slide. So again, this is a very familiar looking slide. Basically, it shows across the various different home types in the community, and down the columns, the different tiers or sort of functional areas, whether it's administrative and services, golf course, grill, class amenities, etc. And kind of what the financials lay out for each of those. Coming to the total of $6 million that basically gets divided up among each of us to pay, and then the reserve contributions highlighted in the light blue there, both the common area reserves and then the specific reserves. So then the next section, if you just sort of look at the 2026 proposed assessments, that's basically just taking each of those columns divided by the number of homes that fall into that category. Then adds in the current class and food minimum, common area reserves, villa reserves, getting to the proposed 2026 monthly assessments. Then I just annualize it so you can see both on a monthly and a full year basis. And then compare that to prior years to get the net increases, monthly increase and annual increase, and the percentages. And then just down below, if you're just looking at the assessments by itself without the food and the reserves, that calculates the increases that are just related to the assessment components. Next slide. Oh, sorry, you actually do not have, sorry, you don't have the latest with the villa. I'll just talk to it, but then I'll send it out to the community. So we get a lot of questions on why the villas is always higher, or it appears to be higher than the 40s, 50s, 60s, 80s. That's really because there are costs that the villas pay in their HOA that individual standalone homeowners pay separately. So we actually back those out. Villas is on the lowest part of the assessments, but then things like irrigation, which the HOA pays on behalf of the villas, that gets divided up among the 92 villa owners, whereas each of us individually pay for that directly to Townhall. Same thing for termite programs. I pay directly to Home Team, but the villa's program is under the HOA umbrella. So the HOA pays Home Team, and it's divided among the 92 units for the villas. And obviously, there's the specific villa reserves that covers the future replacement of roofs as well as painting of the villas. When you factor those together, that's why you end up with a sort of on the bottom line, it's like a higher assessment than 40s, 50s, 60s, and 80s. But it's only because there's certain things included in that number that aren't included in the individual homes. Next slide. So this is just a walk. I got to put my reading vest on this one. So I'll walk some what the 2025 budget, the 2026 budget, And this is one place where I talk sort of budget to budget. Other places I will be referring to some actuals for history compared to budget. So if you look at administrative and services, so again, this is all of our sort of overhead centralized services, our bulk spectrum, our SWS, things like that. But there's an increase that's a combination of revenue and expenses.
Hold the microphone a little bit.
Pardon me?
But also
Sure.
spike a little louder.
Okay. So on the administrative side, last year we gave a $100,000 give back on our revenue exceeding our expenses. So currently that is taken out of the 2026 budget. So that's why revenue is actually going down. And then on the expense side, we've added Curtis Security this year. We have them in 2025, but obviously it's a full year for budget in 2026. We've added a placeholder for a bookkeeper position. And there are some apples to oranges things, like we transferred a maintenance position that was down in golf up into the admin budget. It's really not a net change, it just happens to be a change on this specific line. And there's also a incentive pool where we sort of combined anything that might be a market adjustment for need to replace positions, any kind of spot incentives, things like that. We just have a pool available for the board to make the determination. Obviously, the board would have to approve any kind of payments or adjustments from that money. The golf course, we have a net increase in revenue of about $373,000. Again, that's the increased public golf revenue. And then as far as the expenses, so we added positions, some added landscaping costs, and we've got a renewal of equipment lease coming up, which represents a good, not all the pieces that Ethan has, but a good chunk of the equipment that Ethan uses to maintain the golf course. The plaza amenities specifically, that's about a $30,000 increase in the activities budget. And the plaza restaurant is really just bringing revenue in line where we've had some, where we have a good history to know where we think it should be. And then lower cost of goods sold and lower supplies. And then again, the village's biggest change there is just the inflationary increases for pest control and irrigation. Next. So this is where now we're going to sort of talk actuals, rest of year estimate, which is the ROY, which basically takes the actuals through August. I guess it's September there. It's an estimate of September to some extent, because those aren't final. And then it just factors in the rest of the year to get to an estimate of where we think we're going to end up. So again, this is now broken out by functional area. So you've got golf, you've got plaza, and then on the subsequent pages, the other functional areas. So when you look at this, revenue from 2023 has grown, compounded annual growth rate of about 9.9%. Bulk of that being the golfing component of that versus merchandise and grill. The only thing that's gone slightly down is actually merchandise from 2023. So again, that's a pretty good outcome. Again, driven mainly by public. Then if you look at the expense side, if you look at just the net cost, total expenses, those have risen about 8.4%. Largest increases in golf maintenance. And then when you come down to the very bottom, that just sort of shows you where the net loss or the subsidy per unit has gone from 2023 to 2026 budget. About 2.6% increase in those 3 years. When you look at the plaza, what's interesting is if you look at the sort of revenue number, so we come in pretty close to the same number every single year, 960, 956, 963. We're budgeting 985, but we've got three years of history where we seem to hit that number spot on. The expired food credits, similar if you take out the 2003, but 227,000, 233,000, budgeting 220,000. 2023 is a little bit of an aberration, not sure exactly why that was, but pretty consistent when we look at that. The expenses, you can see have been pretty static from 2023 to 2026. And then the net cost again has gone up a little bit, but that's driven a lot by the expired food credits back in 2023. Now, the other thing I will point out is a little note at the bottom, which holds true for all these slides. You know, things were different in 2023, so there might have been some different costs and, you know, allocated to the plaza than 2026. We did not go backward. We stayed all these things to make them apples for apples. So directionally correct, but you know, that 7.2 could be 7.8 or 6.2 if we've gone back and made all these adjustments, but don't want to make a mistake doing that, and then it makes it harder to tie back into financials. Next page. And you'll see that more come to fruition as we get to admin, et cetera. So then amenities, kind of a similar, you know, story. Again, we don't take a lot of revenue in. We have our New Year's Eve event and a couple other events, but there's not a big revenue item that moves the needle from our amenities perspective. Then if you look at the expenses, you know, they've stayed somewhat static, got down 1% of that 3-year period. The subsidy has dropped just slightly. If you look at 2023 to 2026. Then administration, again, we call it activities revenue, but it's basically all the other revenue, whether it's capital contributions, late fees, interest, things like that. And again, the biggest change there is because we currently took out the $100,000 give back we had in 2025 versus 2026. Then you look down at the expenses, and again, this is where it comes to sort of an apples to oranges, because there's things in 2026 that were not there in 2023. So one example is right now, all the management fee for first services and admin back in 2023 was split across golf, food and beverage, and admin. The other thing is back in 2023, the CDD was maintaining, I think, 11 parcels on our behalf. These are like monuments, cul-de-sacs, things like that. We picked that up in 2025 or 2024. They actually transferred the deeds and property to us. So again, that's like a $90,000 increase, 2026 versus 2023. So again, not exactly apples to apples, but again, it gives a good direction of where these functional areas shake out. Next slide. Okay, so there's a lot of talk about the food minimum at the plaza. So we ran a couple of numbers under different scenarios. I'm just presenting 2 here. Talking about, you know, hearing about inflation, I'll get to that in a second. But what this attempts to do is saying, all right, if we went from 75 to 80, which is a $5 increase, or the other column, if we went from 75 to 90, a $15 increase, what would it actually translate to? Because I think there's an expectation that by raising the plaza minimum would result in a lower HOA fee and more income to the plaza, which is not necessarily the case, which I'll show here in a second. So basically, I'll just work on one column. I'll use the $5 column. So if we were to increase it $5, that is just math, right? 5 times 937 times 12, we would bring in an extra 56,000 of what I'll call guaranteed cash, right? That's coming through assessment. So there's no, we should get that barring any delinquencies, et cetera. I back off of that, you know, if we hold the food credits, the expired food credits about the same, they 2.2%. I initially back that off because I want to keep that to the side because I don't want to assign any cost of goods to that, because that just drops right to the bottom line. The other thing I do, which makes a difference, but in the end, it doesn't change the numbers that much, is there's a bunch of owners who already spend well above the 900, right? I think our top spender is north of 10,000. We got a bunch of you know, a few $1,000 range. So just raising the food minimum. So if you have an owner spending $5,000, food minimum goes up $5. They're not necessarily going to spend $5,005, right? They're just going to keep up their traditional spending habits. So I back those off because we can't count that as necessarily additional revenue. So that gives me the expected increase in food and beverage sales. Then I take all the variable costs against that. Because again, as we sell the food, beverage, whatever, we've got cost of goods, we've got paper supplies, things like that. So I get to a net increase from expected sales. I add back the expired credits that drop directly to the bottom line. So on a $5 increase, we would calculate that the net income would go up by $23. So when you do the math, net income going up by 23 would actually reduce the subsidy by $2.08. But we've increased the subsidy in the top line by 5. So net, we're changing the subsidy by roughly $3. So in other words, we would be increasing the assessment by $3. So it really doesn't drop to the bottom line as some people expect. if we really want to have an impact on, you know, bring inflation into the equation, we gotta look at our food prices, we gotta look at our menu prices, sorry. And then $13 burger, that's probably been like that for 2 years, may have to become $14 burger. That's how you get the inflation, that's how you get more profit from the plaza, not necessarily just increasing the food minutes. So I'm just gonna pause there and ask the board if they have any questions on that, or what they think about that, or if they still might want to consider raising the food minimum.
I'd be in favor of, oh gosh. I don't think we saw a breakdown of if we raise the food minimum to $100, which is 25 increase. And not have an actual increase on the HOA dues, or did I miss that slide? John, do you have that? Does anybody have that? No, do a slide.
So I ran all different, so when you look at the percentages there, right? So at $5, it's that 292 increase.
Yeah.
So it's like 58%. If you go to 15, it's like 54. Go to 25, it drops down like 48. But every scenario of increasing the food minimum increases the HOA. There's no scenario that increasing the food minimum brings down the HOA. in total.
I know that, but if somebody,
We have 2 mics.
We only have
We
one.
not, I'm purchasing more, those are the new ones.
I would see that homeowners would see that they're actually getting more value for increasing the plaza spend. Rather than just a blanket 4.3% on the HOA dues. Now, if somebody doesn't want to use the plaza, that's entirely up to them. That's a decision that they're actively making. But I just think that might be a better way to go, because you're giving people added value for their money.
What's the max to get to 27? So how much would the plaza monthly spend have to increase to cover all the 27 that you're proposing? So they say 27 divided by 0.45 to get the top line. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm asking?
Yeah, I don't think, I don't know that you could eliminate the 27 by just increasing the plaza, right? It's again, and that's that paper, but just roughly 50%. So if we go up 25 on the plaza, that's a net, say 12, that's going up for HOA fees overall, right? So yes, the right pocket, the left pocket, so you bring your, you know, your HOA assessment for plaza or your subsidy down a little bit, but you're increasing it by the $25. And it's all specific to the plaza, right? So it's kind of like right pocket to left pocket, right? It's just how it's being characterized. Now, if we go up by 25 and nobody spends that, like everybody just lets it drop to the bottom line, that obviously changes the, I don't think that's realistic, right? We're not trying to like get money free. If you want to do that, we would just get rid of the flat food minimum. Right, we just go to a direct assessment and just say, then you're paying cash for whatever you purchase.
No, I just think it'll. I understand you're paying Rob and Peter to pay Paul, but when you're paying Paul, you're actually getting some benefit for it, for anybody who actually chooses to do so. So that's the way I would be looking at it.
So just so I'm clear, so if we increased it by $5 a month, then instead of the 27, I'd be paying 30
We pay 30, correct?
a month.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah, so that's correct. So just take that, you know, $8, whatever, add it to, or the 292 or the 816, add it to the 27. And that's what you'll end up paying.
I'm actually talking about maybe not having the 27, not having the 4.3 increase. Getting it from somewhere else.
27 doesn't change.
But it,
The 27 doesn't change.
You just move.
I understand that.
27
But you're-
to 30, you get $5 on your plaza credit, so you're increasing the HOAs to get $5 credit. You're increasing the HOA by $3 to get $5. That's basically what you're getting.
So yeah, so to be precise, the 27 goes down by the 2 to 25, but then you're adding the 5 back.
Same thing.
Same thing, right? So you get to 30, whether you add the 292 to the 27, or you do it the other way, right? But at the end of the day, we move from 27 to 30 if we did a $5 increase. We move from 27 to 35 if we did a $15 increase. So purely based on, again,
This one.
we have a lot of history of exactly what people spend at the plaza, right? Now that can change potentially, and I think the goal is we gotta figure out how do we get the $5,000 people to keep spending 5,000 for starters? And then how do we get the people who are spending, 810 to spend 1,210, right? So we gotta figure out as a board and management team, what is the reason people aren't coming to the plaza, right? Because some people are just giving away the money to some extent, but could be a myriad of reasons, right? Food quality could be just financial, right? $75 is done, right? Kind of like when people view the Oasis. But if you come and spend it, you're really tapping on an extra 25% because you got tip and gratuity. So some people might say, I'll give up the 900 because if I spend the 900, I really got to spend 1,200. So some people might just be like that, that's going to break the bank. Some people might just be like, that's why I don't spend it. But to the extent that there's other reasons, they don't know, they don't feel involved in the community, or they don't know what the events are, or whatever the case is. If we can get to those people to get them up here, that's obviously a better answer. And again, continue that the high spenders continue to spend at the level they have historically. So from my perspective, if the goal, and my personal goal would be to keep the HOA as low as possible, I would recommend a plaza increase as a minimum increase. But I do think that we need to look at food, the menu pricing, and see where we can move that as well.
No, I think I'd agree with you, Alan. I wouldn't recommend a plaza increase unless we can reduce the 27 by another method.
John?
I would agree as well. I mean, one way to get additional revenue in here, obviously, is to increase the bid because of the cost. Because that goes beyond what it is at big monthly as far as our HOAs go. So slight increases in food costs, I would say, would be an option for us to bring in additional revenue. But as far as adding the additional $5, many of us spend a lot more than that, obviously. So I can see how it benefits, but then, like we're saying, it's rounding. It's just moving the air in a balloon, that's it.
So at the last budget, I don't even know what date it was, a couple of weeks ago. I raised the idea of raising the top line of your food costs, what we pay. And then you look as it rolls down, that's straight to the bottom line. But what the problem with that is, everybody that spends over your minimum, you're not gonna get a change in behavior with those people. So you're gonna have to watch it, because they probably intuitively, and one in the front row here spends a certain amount and kind of knows what she's gonna spend. And then if we up that by 30%, she's probably gonna not do that. I think we gotta figure out the math on that, because my initial reaction was raise that, because honestly, I do think our food is very inexpensive here. However, the unintended consequence is we probably hit the wrong people that are here 4 or 5 nights a week, that now are gonna be here 2 or 3 nights a week. And what else we're doing is we better get a referral from Millers, because that's where they're all going. So I don't know, it's a delicate balance, and I get it. Sorry, I'm still. But my initial reaction was to do it, but then I'm waffling a bit on it, but on the food minimum, I'm not.
Okay, any other? So then
75.
agreement at 75,
I'm good.
or mostly, okay. Okay, next slide. Okay, so now on to golf. So sort of business as usual, so you can sort of see are kind of main components of our pricing. So cart fee, CRT as we call it, or how it's in the 4T system. So that's someone who doesn't own their own cart, plays and goes and pays a rate whenever they play using a club cart. Current price is 31. In this current plan, it assumes going to 32. Trail fee, again, this is now those folks who own their own carts. Currently we have about 135. Current price is $18.50. Recommended in our budget is $19.50, $100 change. The member TF cart share. So this is single cart in the household, but two members, could be spouses or partners or whatever. But this is where one card, the initial card is priced at the $18.50 or $19.50, and the second card or the second user of that card, I mean, in theory that, you know, they're not playing exactly at the same time. It's $1,600. So again, that's a $100 increase. The non-trail fee, so this is where you own a card, but you decide not to prepay up front. You just pay as you go. $26. So this is kind of, you know, your own card versus club card, recommending that to go up $1 to 27. As you can see, that doesn't, all those changes don't, you know, create a ton of revenue, but $24,000. And then on the annual pass holder, currently have 14. It's currently 4,600. Again, proposing to go up $100 to 4,700. They also pay the card fee when they play, so that would just follow the same item up above. So again, when you factor that in, you know, it's 2,800 for the annual pass holders, assuming we sign up the same 14 and not more. And then if you look at all the other public golfing, too many variables around wholesale pricing, golf now pricing, et cetera. But we're looking at $105,000 increase from public golf as well. So then when you look at all that over to the side, also kind of calculate where we stand both for budget and 2025 full year, what percentage of revenue comes from members, what percentage of revenue comes from the public. That comes down to the total 2026 budgeted revenue for golfing with a $2.5 million. And if we hit that, that would be an average member rate round of 28.14, up from a full year estimate of 26.93, and a public rate of 93.92, up from 88.75. And again, the rounds are almost split equally. It's like 21 versus 20 is what we're budgeting for 2026. Okay, and then just down things that we've had and talked about previously that we can discuss now. Do we want a different rate than what's shown? Do we want any additional public play? Whether 2 times a day? Do we want to touch on member guest pricing or any other thing? So I'll just pause there to get input from the board based on, if you look at the sort of pricing up above, cart, trail fee, member, trail fee, cart share, non-trail fee, et cetera. Any commentary?
As long as it stays like it is today, I think it's the best route for us.
What's that mean? What's that mean?
The way we've got it set here without potential revisions. Reason being is you want, the one thing that we all love our golf course, everybody that plays and doesn't play and so forth, we love our community. When we have a golf course, we need to make it experience for those that come in that wants to draw them back even more than when they currently come back. If you go to various golf courses and so forth, semi-private courses, which is really what we are, because every member is a member of the golf course itself, whether you play or not. They do certain things to make the experience better. It excites people. Years ago, when I first started playing here, when I come, there was a special section for members only. You got greeted at the golf in the parking lot, your bags, and you had a better experience, in my opinion. It was just an overall experience that brought me back and back, whatever the prospects did there. But to me, it's not just the experience that when you come in or in the pro shop, but it's the experience out on the course itself. There's still things on the course that need to be done. If you look at the new tee boxes that just opened up, they're already getting freight. And it's only been 2 weeks, which is really disappointing. There's other areas where there's still garbage cans that are still not at the holes where you can throw garbage away. There's just things that need to be done to really fine tune the golf course itself and make those that come here that are outside as well as inside. Love the courses that gotta go back. Just gotta go, and then when you get that type of experience and you get the clientele, your prices can rise. You can bring in additional revenue that way. But to get there, you have to spend money to get there.
So I guess the one question I'll ask to the board, and then obviously we have public commentary a little bit, is, if we don't change something as it relates to golf, something as it relates to expense base, we'll get there shortly. Are we okay with a 4.3% increase at $27 across the board, or do we need to do things to bring that down to closer to a 0 increase year on year?
I think every year we accept a $20 or $30 increase, and at some point it becomes a problem. I think we need to get ahead of the curve on this. When we talk about expenses, John, when I go back to Alan's slide, financial review, functional area 1 and 2, I'm looking at expenses in 23 in golf of 3.3 million, and I'm looking projected in 26 of 4.3 million. I think we're investing. I think we might be overly investing, maybe in the wrong areas. That's a different issue. But if you look at the bottom line, the monthly net cost subsidy per home, what it was in 23, what it's 24, what we're looking at in 25, if it finishes off, and then when we look at 26 budget, we're again drifting. We can't continuously drift, right? We're gonna be like the government at some point here. So I have maybe a little different thought on this. I am a 0 increase across the board. I haven't hit that fact. I think we differ a little on this. I think the trade-off to get a second public play day, not on a weekend, because weekend when we look at the tee sheets, predominantly member play. We can't, you know, we have I don't know what the percentages of homeowners or members that work. If we hit one of those days, we're taking half of their tee times away. Doesn't seem logical or fair, but there's other options. So I like the second public play day, but I would probably hold the other rates on the 25. That's the trade-off. So people that are golfing, hold the 31, don't go to 32, hold the trail fee for a year, roll out the second public play day, kind of a win-win across the board. But when it comes back to the investing, the garbage can on 2. It's going to drive us all nuts. It really has been a long time since that's supposed to be dealt with. But when I look at this, we need to find 300 grand in this budget. That's how we eliminate $27, right? Extra public play days probably somewhere on the low end of $1.25 to high end 250, probably saw it off at 180. So you're what? $16 already there, more or less. So that gets you almost there. It's halfway, more than halfway there. So now we're looking at certain other items because we do have a favorability in 25 to budget, so we could roll some money there. We rolled from 24 to 25. I rolled it. We made it 1 year, we just offset it against your HOAs in the following year. I think we could probably find 50 to 100K there. Then now we're 200 and some odd of the 300 there. Then you gotta hit expenses. That's my view. And I'm gonna kind of state that's where I'm going. So I have mixed words on that. So I know it's different than some of y'all, but
I'm not in favor of a second public play day. It's hard enough to get a tee time here in winter months, and at the end of the day, that's a problem. I think there are other costs that we should be looking at. And we had this discussion the other day with salaries and whatever. I know I asked him, Alan, was that included in this? the reduction in some of the, but we've 78, and no offense to FSR, sorry lads, you're put your fingers in your ears in this, but 78 employees here. Kidding me? Sorry. I'm Irish, sorry, but we're always going back to the well of the golf club, and it's always the golfers that are hit. And you know something? I spent this weekend in the golf club for various different things. And all I saw was guys in there buying food, buying beer, having a, you know, they were enjoying it, but they were actively involved and they support community. And that well is gonna run dry, and what's gonna happen is people are just gonna start packing up and heading off. We can't keep going to the well. We need to sort of look at something else. And I honestly think the salaries is something that we should be looking at.
So how from 23 to 26, did we keep going to the well? Because if I remember correctly, the 23 trophy was about $2,400. So we're significantly lower than that. So I'm not, when we say we're going to the well, I'm
No,
not
it's,
sure.
it's always the golf, it's always golf that's seen as the fix it all for the plaza needs to be sorted, but nobody seems to be getting it by the scruff of the neck.
Well, I don't know. I look at the plaza subsidy based on what the budget is, and it's less than golf. So what am I missing?
18 holes is not in the plaza.
But it's a per house, so then
Yeah, but it's a different beast. That's like comparing, I don't know, an elephant.
That's the member spend at the golf course versus the 1.2 million member spend at the plaza. But it's around 530 grand, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So it's 530,000 that we, the collective members, spend down at golf. We make the rest of that deficit up by introducing the public plug. Up in the plaza, we take 1.2 million-ish from the members. So if the ratio would work out right, we actually are over contributing to golf vis-a-vis the plaza, but that's a different argument, different conversation. But I don't see this as, you know, the expression that we all hear is targeting golfers. Everybody on this board at some level plays golf. I'm not sure if holding what the member pays in 26 flat from 25, and the trade-off is an additional weekday public day. I'm not sure that's a bad deal. Right? And then the question is what day, and does it work? And remember, you're not getting married to this. If you go 3 months and it doesn't work, it's not like we can't change it. Right? The question becomes is, what do we want? Do we want the HOAs to continue to go up? Because you're going to drift 20-30 bucks every month. That's the way it's going to go. And at the end of the day, you start adding that up. If you're comfortable, if everyone's comfortable with that, we'll just say you're comfortable with that. I don't see that as a long-term strategy, personally.
I agree.
30 months. 10 years, it's 3. You're gonna price people out of here.
Yeah, I think one of the concerns that I know that a lot of the realtors have and people who live in the community is the continuing increase in the HOA is making, one, the property values are impacted, and two, people are not able to sell their properties when they put them up for sale. You go around the community at the moment and see how many for sale signs are out there and are still out there 3-6 months time. There's a lot of properties which are not moving
Yeah, but that's
because
the
the
challenge.
HOAs are going up all the time. I think we need to have a situation where we can minimize, if not zero, HOA increases to, one, increase the value of our homes, and two, when people do want to sell, they have the ability to sell.
I don't completely agree with that. Yes, there's a lot of homes that are for sale right now, but look at the housing market. It's slowed down tremendously. Once that picks back up, whenever that may be, we'll for sure, we're probably not. you'll see homes move a lot faster than what they are today because of the community. HOA fees are not preventing the homes from being sold. It's the number of buyers out there that are willing and looking to buy. And the market with the interest rates and so forth, you're paying 6, almost 7% in some cases. That's priced, that's what's pricing them buying a home, not the HOA fee.
I answer. I do have a little experience for this, and I can tell you that the zip code 33896, which is our zip code, is in a buyer's market by about 20%, which basically means there's an awful lot more homes for sale than there are buyers. And any realtor worth their salt will actually turn around and break down our HOA dues for prospective buyers. And if somebody goes into a community, say Highlands or West Haven, breaks down, you know, you're getting your lawn care, you're getting your yard work done, you're getting your TV, phone and internet, and it's a really good package we get. When you break everything down, it actually, I know it's a big chunk every month paying it out, I get it, I do it too. But from my experience, and as I said, I do have a little experience, I can tell you now that the housing market is quite flat in the area, and houses are moving, but there is particular type of houses that are moving. John is right, interest rates are affecting it, but I'm not seeing, talking to buyers, I'm not seeing it's the HOA.
Just a couple of other points as well. I mean, if you look at inflation at the moment, it's 2.9% in August. We're talking about increasing the HOA by over 4%. We also have a lot of residents who are on fixed income. They can't afford to have their HOAs go up each year and afford to live in this community. So I think we've got to look at the entire population of the community, not just those that can afford to pay the $27 increase.
So I probably come at it from a slightly different perspective to some extent, is, you know, I agree we should strike while the iron's hot and maximize public play while balancing the member experience. But my concern is, you know, when that recession or that you know, housing crisis of 28, 29 hits again, if we lose the public, right, whether it's volume or price, so we can't sell our February tea times at 169 and that drops to 129. We can't make that up with member play, right? At $31, we need like 3.2 or 3.3 rounds on average, because again, the $99, $98 compared to the member, you need like 3.2 member rounds, and that's the cart paying member round, instead of trail fee paying member round, to make that up. So that math doesn't work long term if we start to lose, or if the market softens, if golf goes out of vogue or becomes less popular, travel decreases, less people come into play. So my concern is more the ratio that we rely heavily on the public. But we can't stop relying on the public unless we move what the members pay to use the course, right? So again, we got 14, I'm not saying this is the market rate, we got 14 annual pass holders who are willing to pay $4,600 and $31 a round. So they roughly $7,700. That's a very different price point than our members, and it should be to some extent. But I just think that ratio has to change over time. It doesn't change today, tomorrow, but eventually 5-10 years, that ratio needs to get more, you know, 2/3, 1/3, or 40-60 or something, because I think that's the risk that's out there. Is if that market gets soft, we can't recover from that easily.
It's not just soft, it's if the member rounds go up.
Well, if the member rounds go up, so yeah, so again, I always think of these things in extremes, right? So like, if you only had 40,000 rounds all played by a card fee person, 31 times 40,000 is 1.2 million. The golf course costs 4.2, right? So all of a sudden you've got this $3 million gap. That right now we make up most of that from public. But if they think of it as just in extreme, so that means that our current pricing really doesn't support the golf course, right? We rely on other factors. And the only difference, I mean, the difference between the golf course and the plaza is we have no other factors to rely on. We got nobody else that we can bring in with the current structure to generate revenue, right? And you know, so you know, golf is the one area where we can get third-party revenue. Because the plaza, It's not happening, right? There's nobody else that's coming in, and so unless we can get more of the owners to spend more here, it's not gonna change the financials of the plaza. So that's why golf is a different animal, unfortunately.
So I can talk about something that's affecting us.
Yeah, you can talk about anything you want.
So. I don't know if everyone remembers, but we had a problem with the plaza access cards and some people that were specifically excluded because of our dog. We fixed that by an amendment. We have a similar issue that has developed in golf. So for example, let's say Neil and I were brothers and we both own the house. It seems odd to me that we would say only one can go on. If they fit the plaza access card, I don't think they should pay zero. I think it should be somewhere between zero and our annual pass holder. These are people on property, they live here, their address is here. I think you have to, I think we need to start, sometimes things are written that are just not fair. This doesn't seem fair to me. So in my mind, I kind of figured the midpoint, just cut it in half and say, if we were brothers that had the same and qualified for the access card where state ID, then I think you would come in at, whatever the number is, 4,600, so half of that is, I guess, 4,700, so 2,350. And then they would pay their card fee. It's not quite the same as the actual one member, but not an annual pass holder outsider. I don't know what everyone kind of thinks on that, but I think we do think about it.
Yeah, the way the documents are structured, a blood relative can't get access when there's another blood relative, that is the matter. So it doesn't make a lot of sense like we did with the plaza. But I think in the plaza situation, we only charged a nominal fee for that extra member of the household to be able to access the plaza. I'm not saying a nominal fee for the golf, but it's what we're looking here is something that will move the needle significantly, reducing the 27 down as close to zero as possible. That's something that will help, and I don't think it's going to make a massive change.
No, but it's fairness.
Yeah, it's fair, but it's not going to change these numbers significantly.
No, but this is the time to talk about it.
Yeah.
One last comment, just I thought about. One, I do think we should try to get that HOA increase down to zero ideally, and I'll throw my recommendation in a second. But the other thing just to point out is I've never been a member of a private golf club, but my understanding is most private golf clubs limit memberships at around 400, 500, just because again, the number of tee times, especially here, not in Florida where you have a full season. But if you think about it, if by chance all 937 homes played golf, and if 2 people in those homes played golf, that's 1,800 golfers, we'd be down to roughly 20 rounds for each of us. That would be it for the year, and you have to go over the lottery system, etc. So similar to the way the plaza benefits from people who don't use their food minimum, it drops right to the bottom line. But as golf community, we benefit from 1,400 golfers that don't golf, right? Because if they did, the tee sheet, we would have a public problem. We would have a problem with, we wouldn't find tee times for members, right? So you're 20 tee times for the year, you might get one on a Saturday morning. Otherwise it'll be a Tuesday or Wednesday afternoon, etc. So we live in a golf community, but we are fortunate that the majority don't golf because this community could support 1,800 golfers, or any course can support 1,800 golfers. So again, we have to find that balance, right? Because if more people start golfing, like every golf, we have a totally different discussion up here. What the lottery system is, how we'll forget the book, et cetera, and we have no tee times, right? So just want to point that out. So my recommendation is, I think we should do 100,000 gift back again. I think we should find 100,000 for golf, that third party extra play day, or I think we go 100,000 for expenses, and we bring our increase to zero.
You say that again.
So we split, so 300,000, 100,000 from the excess revenue over expenses from the prior year. Right? 100,000 from golf, which could be, the numbers you quoted, I think were 125 to 175. So if you did Mondays, mornings, it's a public day. Then we get the 100 there, and then we find 100 expenses from salaries and related. And I would guess a zero increase.
No comments on this item.
So, yay, nay, people, we like that, we hate that?
We have a lot of comments.
Okay.
Online.
Our biggest expense is salaries. Like you said, I think there's gonna be a way that we can reduce salaries in some manner. We have 72 people working for us. We need all 72, can most be compliant with whichever plan. That is gonna be one way to get the dollar. Now, typically, when you go to look to reduce costs, you go out and reduce expenses. Golf is obviously one of our big expenses, but then you also have management fees, salaries, et cetera, et cetera. Those are the ones that you also need to consider. We go for projects like the golf grow, which we're working on, we got the 3 bids on it. We didn't get 3 bids on lawn service, that was discussed. We got 3 bids on management services. Those things need to be done every year, even if you don't anticipate moving. That way you have a view and you have a basis to work on, see where things are. Otherwise, you're just taking an individual or company's word for it, that you're getting the best price out there whatsoever. Still think you need to do that. And I think if you're gonna continue, we need to set a dollar amount, anything over a certain dollar amount, we definitely need to go out and get 3 bids for.
Here.
So John, just to frame that, I'm not saying I don't agree with some of that. We have 4.4 million of salaries in total. 2.4 of that million is golf. Right? So a big chunk of our current salary and wages is actually in the golf operation, right? That's the biggest part of the 4.2 million total golf costs. Outside of that, then obviously the remaining is 2 million sprinkles. Not quite equally, but 900 in the plaza and 1.1 in the admin. So yeah, so unless we're going to go after those golf salaries, right, which is infrastructure and investments, which you're talking about, then we don't have as much play, right? We had the other night that people probably need more service at the plaza. So that's actually not bringing stuff down, that's increasing it. Right, so again, the pool is, I know it seems like a big number, but when you sort of like go back and take it apart, like we talked about how many starters and rangers and things we need, right? Like we didn't come out and say, oh, we got 6, we need 2, right? We actually added a head starter ranger, one of those people were gonna be assigned that, right? So again, when you look at it individually, it doesn't feel like there's too many, right? So that's the challenge, right? But like there's not a lot, and the other thing is, remember that salary and wage line, that includes healthcare costs, right? Which are probably 300 of that. It includes the overhead burden rate, right? So again, what employees are taking home is very different than what the number is on the schedule. So at that point, everybody out there realize that as well. But I think our healthcare costs have gone up like 40 or 50% since 2003, right? And again, I know mine personally is not at least that. So again, sorry. So it's. Yes, it sounds good, but we gotta actually look at the details and figure out, all right, where can we cut? And that's why I say like 100,000, yeah, we gotta find that. But I mean, we're not gonna go from 4.2 million to 0, right? It's not gonna happen. So.
I wasn't saying that meetings is drastically done, but there is opportunities all across the board, like you said. You have one salary, you got healthcare, you got work rate that goes along with that. You put a salary at 70 things, you're talking probably about 95K. Oh, that's part of what it is. You're talking about getting 100,000 back. So you look at these things, you don't do drastic, you make conscientious decisions, you focus in regards to what people do. They can say it, but every business out there has extra weight that they can actually put out. Whether it's liked or not, that ends up being the case. I've been in the situation many times myself, so. There's different things that can be done that you can look at.
Those are interesting points, John, but when we sat in that meeting and went through salaries, I said I wanted salaries reduced. I even cleared FSR out of the room, said we need to cut them. I didn't hear anything from you to cut them. So it's nice to speak here.
Not true, Jason, because I did make mention one role.
So just to finish off the rest of the slide, which is appendices, let's go to this view. So this is just the risks that I had put up about 2 weeks ago. Again, these pretty much carry forward every year. Next one. The next several slides are just functional areas by vendor spend. So again, trying to highlight in this, admin budget or in the plaza amenities where we can, specific vendors. Who do we pay to? We pay to Duke, we pay to Townhall, we pay to SWS, we pay to FSR, et cetera, right? So again, and then obviously some places just vary like in activities. I'm not sure every guitar player we have come in here, but it's just, those are the vendors we pay for that. Page down. So again, I've just broken out by all the different functional areas. And then did a thing that kind of supports that subsidy thing, but just again, what the spend across the functional areas are by the major categories. So again, what's admin, what's insurance, and again, some of these things are less controllable. I think our liability and all different insurances have gone up by 60% since 2023. Lisa mentioned this earlier, and I put this in the past. But yes, I do think there's a lot of value in some of the services that we've negotiated. So like Spectrum, as an example, I just used actually a former neighbor in the community lived across the street, moved out. He now pays $285 to Spectrum. And he gets basically not quite the same service. He doesn't get the DVR box or the Tumo, which version you go. But we pay $63.71. So in theory, if you were out there on your own, contracting with Spectrum, of course, they often start with teaser rates, but ultimately you end up paying more. And I know when I was in New York, it's over $300 for my cable, internet, and phone. And then SWS works for some, not for all, and we're going to be looking at that next year. But similar thing, if you have ADT, you pay $49.99. There's other services a little cheaper. I just took the Midway, $24.99 plus tax. You'd be paying $26. We pay $10.74 with tax for that monitoring service. So again, there is value in our HOA, but it's hard because it's a big number, right? At the end of the day, it's $700-800 depending on, so people lose sight of that. But if you had a contract for these things individually, whether it was landscaping, cable, et cetera, you would be paying for them just in a different mechanism. It's kind of like the Villa example where I pay Toho for my irrigation, Villa pays the HOA pays Toho. So it's just how it gets wrapped up. But there is value in our HOA. Next slide. This is just again, if you keep going up 4%, this is James' point, you just compounded money, it starts to get really expensive over time. Future wish list items, again, that's just a repeat from previously. And then for people who aren't familiar with the community, the little pyramid that we bring back all the time. So you don't spend too much time on those guys. But anyway, so I think the board, I know we're not all aligned on some of this stuff, and maybe we don't go for public comment, but I still think we should get to 0 personally and go to those 3 avenues. But it doesn't sound like we've got consensus of what those 3 avenues are, or if we should go after that 4% increase.
The future wish list, Alan, none of that is factored into the budget numbers.
Correct. Yep, none of that is. I'm just looking to make sure there's nothing that we already previously approved. No, none of that would be in the current budget numbers. That would either be funded by assessments, regular or special, kind of user fee or public user fee or the settlement funds, or if we continue to exceed revenues over expenses going forward.
So at the moment, in addition to the $27 a month, if we want to do any of this improvement to the community, that's extra. Okay, well, I'm not comfortable with that.
Well. So again, that wish list should be a living document, that's just, you know, together with FSR and myself and having gotten feedback from others over the year. But I'm sure it's not comprehensive, there's probably other stuff in there.
You talked about last meeting when we had the town hall, you mentioned X amount of dollars, it was 200,000 in regards to excess funds that you looking to do something with it, whether it be putting all into our reserves, spreading it into our HOA fees. And with it.
Yep.
I had made a recommendation after a meeting the other day that why don't we consider putting 100,000 of that into reserve? Well, how's that work if we put towards the HOA fees? The remaining dollar amount, we use a specific amount of roughly 75,000 that we could put towards maybe somebody's wish list items.
The voice of God decided.
And then the other 25,000 give to the Getsvik committee so that they have something to work with right away, because otherwise they're gonna have to be going from scratch. And I think it would go a long way to be able to provide them with some funds to get something done, to show the community that work is being done, advancement is being done, and they're being recognized for what it is that they've done. Because they volunteered their time, they need to be able to at least have something for.
Yeah, I think you'd already said that we were going to use some of that money in 100,000 of that to as potential to support the budget for 2026. Using some of it for these, John, that first one on the list there, the plaza screening would eat up that 75,000 plus. So that would be gone in one bullet point. Agree that the Community Enhancement Committee funds, but in the past they raised them themselves through doing events. So you know, that's what we would expect the Community Enhancement Committee to do: raise funds by holding events to generate that income to maybe fund some of these as well.
To be able to open up to public comment and come back to
John, 125 enhancement.
so he's at 100
To
to
enhancement, 75 to wish list,
100 to
and 100 to reserves or HOA.
I printed off the deal.
here. So it would be 75 to wish list, 25K to the enhancement committee, and 100K to either all or split between reserves and operations for the HOA assessments for 2026. Not too dissimilar. I would say give back 100, I was thinking 100 to reserves, so we can split that between enhancement and wish list.
doesn't get you to zero though.
Well, again, this doesn't impact. What we're talking about here isn't impacting, the give back is impacting the HOA assessments, the other two items. Reserves and wish list. Right. So that's back to I think it's $100 for the trade. Expenses is being impact, is how I would say it 300.
So if we do this 300, sorry. If we do this 300, and I think John's asking for 25K to the enhancement. Which again,
And then 75K to the wish list or the.
but at the end of the day, the enhancement is part of the wish list, so you get something that's not on it. Why not start them?
I didn't read all.
No, I said because the enhancement is doing something that's either on the wish list or would become on the wish list. Why not give them a leg up, if you will? Look at it.
So you have, so basically you still have, because we've only given back, well, then you still have 100 to work with.
Oh, no.
So the only cross over here is 100, right? So it's roughly saying 200, we can give them 225. Right, so we can fund the wish list for 25, so if you take 100 off the assessments, then you have 100 to play with between reserve or wish list. So in dividing mine with John's, you guys have 100K left to do something with between wish list and reserves. Because we're funding the 225K will fund the enhancement.
Okay, so on the incremental, so on that other 100, we could do wish list and enhance it because the HOA is already on that. Okay, so then. But that work, I think that worked. Does that work?
It works, but you still gotta get
You gotta get these two.
the expenses and the golf, right?
Right. Okay, so if we move to get the golf up to that, and then we'll cut the expenses, and we'll have to figure out exactly where we're cutting it. Then we could do 100K to give back, and then we could do the 75 to the wish list and 25 to the enhanced. Okay, I think that's what. That's.
Yeah, but we still haven't agreed on how we get the 100K out of golf.
Well, that's true. That's true.
So do you want to open up the public and?
Yeah, let's find out what everyone else thinks.
All right,
Should we do the comments
do
first?
the online ones first. Oh,
You'll know.
yeah, do the inside. Yeah.
Want to use the microphone because we're gonna have to just get back over season. Okay, guys, we're gonna open up for everyone online. We're going to open up the comments. We're gonna start with some folks that are here at the plaza first, but don't worry, I do see all of your comments online and they will be read.
I understand what you're saying.
And one more thing, I'm so sorry, if you could just introduce yourself. before you speak.
Dan.
Thank you. Thank you.
I understand what everybody's saying, we gotta cut expenses and we have to increase revenue. So one of the things, I'm here at the plaza every day that I'm not golf. But there is nobody here. The place has 10 employees here between 11 o'clock and 2 o'clock. And I know our covers don't cover their salaries. We probably should look at closing another day at the plaza to reduce the expense. Maybe Tuesday, or maybe we don't open up quite so early, that would reduce the number of hourly wage. So that's one thing that definitely can happen, because I actually see it all the time. The other thing is that, because to drive, instead of just getting revenue at the golf course, why don't we look at selling plaza memberships to the other HOAs that are here in the neighborhood? Here. Homeowners only, and they would have, it's the same thing as golf. We're asking for increased revenue. We would drive cars. We would probably reduce the amount of food minimums we would have to have. I don't know how many we would get, but that's something to happen. The people that live right across the way in those condos over there would love to come here rather than the Oasis Club. We charge them a fee and we can make money there.
Thank you.
I agree with that one. All the way. Hello, I'm Sharon Collins. First off, I want to say awesome slides, Ellen. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you to the board for your hard work. I noticed a couple things. I've seen a line item for IT support for 90,000 a year. And I've seen a little note that said, looking into maybe cutting that contract. When did that contract start and how long does it go for?
5 years.
Bring it back. I just want to make sure they can answer.
Yeah, I think this is 5-year contract. I want to say
Yeah,
either 26 or 27.
I think it's towards the end of 26, it's due up.
Yeah, and this is a pain point that we've had for a while, right? We know it. Because we're getting kind of platinum service, which on one hand is good, right? They're very responsive. They show it like their service levels 1 hour on site and some Ed goes. Otherwise, they do everything remotely. But the challenge is we are co-located in their data center in Tampa, which we, remember, history for everyone was here. In the gym, there's a little closet, you probably never been inside it, but it basically used to be our server room. And the problem with that is, it was always 85 degrees, because servers throw off heat. There's water sprinklers above it, not any kind of computer safe ones. So, and that was our whole entire POS system was sitting in that server room. So if something bad happened there, we were done, right? We couldn't sell. So the board at that time de-risked that scenario, moved to a Tampa data center. Spectrum has 2 big lines between there and here, both here in the pro shop, one primary, one redundancy. But it's all tied together, right? And then also NTech covers all of our, cybersecurity. And so when we fill out our application to get cybersecurity insurance, they actually calculate all that, right? So it's so integrated. We need to change it, but you can't just say like, swap out this company. I'll give you a good example. The audio guys can't connect without NTech giving them access into our system, right? They've got to, give them credentials, et cetera. We're probably more locked down than we need to be for an HOA, but at the time, back again, history, we didn't want Lennar having any access to our systems anymore, so we basically shut it down. I think at one point, First Service couldn't even work remotely because it was locked down so much. It was like Fort Knox. So yes, we want to get that 90 to whatever the number it should be, 50, 60. It's not going to go 90 to 0, right? Because we still need IT support. We don't have an IT department, but we need a project team to just look at all that integration and negotiate with both Spectrum and Comms Authority, who does our phone service again through that Tampa data center, and NTech, and figure out how do you sort of unwind that, but how do you put in whatever the next generation system is going to be, right? And this when we talk about running fiber lines, we talked about infrared, like all these different things we've had discussions on. We just need to figure out, can we do that before the contract expires, or do we do it when all those contracts come up in 2 years?
Yeah. Just one other question then, I noticed there's a separate line item for Spectrum for 46,000 under the HOA operations. It's separated out from the bulk Spectrum. What is $46,000 to Spectrum cover?
That's those 2 gig lines into the data center.
Okay.
So all 3 lines in that section are all related to the data center and the IT support. John, just 1 second. So there's like 4 or 5 different bills for Spectrum. That is the gigs, the 2 gig lines. But we also pay for Spectrum to give us the access to all the gates that are not the master gates, but are gate arms of the community. So we have that as well. So we spend, it's either called Spectrum or Charter, it's one of the same. Yeah.
I'm Teresa Grant, and I have started talking. We've been here since 2018. Dan and I and several other members of the golf course, we were always on the golf course committees. We were on the golf committees helping find money. Every year that I was on the golf committee, it was always golf, find money, golf, find money. James, I know you said back, it was $2,400 for a golf cart and we went down. No, that was for 2 people. Now, if I look at the same household, I'm looking at $3,550. Now, granted, the trail fees, I'm not just saying, trail fees are minute compared, we can never make that kind of money. But what I'm saying is every year it is spent golf, find the money. That's a little frustrating when the plaza is what's losing. We've got to, what if you can say what it is, but the plaza never makes money. We always go to golf to try to bring in money to decrease the HOAs, increase whatever. I understand we might need a second day, but we gotta find a way to reduce some of the expenses here at the plaza. Why is the golf pro cost going up? And then, like I said, I agree with my husband. I think it's just not golf. I know some people say they don't golf. I don't come to the pool rarely. I don't use the pickleball courts. I don't use the other amenities that are here. So I just don't think it's right that it's constantly going out. And I know you've got to be effective. You just gotta figure out how to do that. To not make everybody. And I can tell you, I'm already looking at different communities. But when you go look at the communities, you cannot find a golf course community for this low of HOA. I can't find one. If I could find one, I would probably could. But this is just getting frustrating that every year it's happening. Everyone had to, yeah, but once golf growth possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just taking a look at that. So one factor that which I forgot to mention is, as you know, every year, both the minimum wage goes up and tip wage goes up. I think this year was $1 for tip wages, and I don't know what the minimum wage.
Not in golf club.
No, sorry, what we're legally required to pay them is a base salary. Remember back in the old days, you used to pay something like $3, and then they made their limit on tips. Now, I think the minimum tip is $10.98 or $11.98.
Yeah, but that's only if they don't make it in tips.
No, I mean, yeah.
That's good to be able to.
So Teresa, let me take a look at that just to see where else it's got, I mean, cost of goods is going up a little bit, but not substantial. I think it has to do with the.
The 18% increase.
And the hours have gone down in the group.
Yeah.
So that doesn't make any sense.
Let me take a look at that. All right, I'll look at this while the questions are being posed. And the other thing, I'll come back with another question on the plaza versus that.
Of Marth.
Alright. The only thing I was gonna say too, is the beautification. When that committee got disbanded, the one that had it originally, and then we went to the new one. Is there a line item of the money that was given back over and where it was spent?
Haven't spent it all yet. Going down.
What's it going?
Extension.
Go
Yeah, it's going to be.
on the extension,
So, yeah, that's
the extent.
the extension, right?
Like the 60,
The 60, yeah.
60K that was in the bank account?
Yeah, well, this way.
Okay. Back up, is that okay?
Okay,
Right.
Nancy Hughes, I'm at four places all the time, unfortunately. The fallacy in the 900 just dropping to the bottom line is whether you not, whether you not, this is a business. Running an HOA is a business. No company wants their gift cards that you're buying to go to waste. They want you to come in and buy more. We're not getting the $900 people to come in here and buy more. We were told years ago, it was also gonna go towards the golf club. Is there any consideration for doing that, buying it so we can do that? That was something we're gonna do. Mostly talk about the golf. We used to have a lot more annual pass holders, we did everything we could to get rid of them. And that was guaranteed income of more than $250,000. Not all of them were here all the time, it was a good deal. It's a lot more money, I know personally what certain individuals pay per round for this, and it's more than golf now. We had Sparks, that was our Wednesday evening time, that's fine, we moved up. We still have some slots left for the rest of us that are homeowners. Sparks, you pay $26 and get a golf cart, you're paying Sparks. How much are we bringing in on that one?
And you don't see them in the grill afterwards.
So we have an issue with that. The number of employees, yeah, we have too many. We're not Fortune 500. The other thing is SWS. I know we have a contract with them, we don't know when it ends, they don't seem to know when it ends. I would say, and I know for a fact, over 25% of the homes have non-functioning systems at this point. I spoke to them. Those of us who would like to get to use it again would have to put out $500 out of their pocket just to get the service again. But if we go as a bulk,
For those of us who are interested, they can give us a discount, but we need to set up a meeting with them to do so. And to work with the company if we're gonna continue. Anybody wants to hear?
I wanna take SWS.
Okay, that's.
I want SWS, this, honestly, this is a pain. Okay,
Yes,
so,
it is.
so. The last contract that we can find that Lennar's sort of talking. Is it goes 15 years from the date of the last install of the units. Given that not every house had a unit installed. I have no idea what I could tell you of what is the start date, let alone what is the end date. So as we started to look through that contract, it appears that the breakup value is about 27K. We think
They were almost down a bit.
they're close. But if we break it up at 27K, we would save $10 on the HOA, but then you go like now, like you'd be on your own for your system. I will tell you about that $500. I did that a year and a half ago. I had ADT in my house. The whole thing broke in 6 months. I followed and it wouldn't come. Right, so, this is a big pet peeve with me, right? But, so I think the logically speaking, we need to look at eliminating that contract. Find something else that could come in to provide across the board, give homeowners the choice, but take them. It would probably require that we take it out of the HOA, so just to kind of even it out, so if you're. 997 or 999 plus tax.
99 plus that, 1070.
For 1074 all in, so if we take your HOA and dump it by 1074, but then you have to pay whatever. Right, but,
Well, I don't get anything.
Right.
You only get lease money. You're not.
right, so it depends if you, which system you upgrade it to, but you have. Like some houses have no system, with zero, and that, they're paying $10 and they don't have anything installed. Now, the awkward part for us is in that contract, it requires. You, me, you, all of us, to return all of the items that were put in the house. They don't know, I don't know, I don't even know what was in my house, I don't have a clue. So to fix that is. Complicated, a bit.
They also control our
Yeah,
plaza
yeah.
cards and.
Rapid fire.
Yeah, that's a different problem. So,
But then.
Numbers.
right.
Been asking to. Yeah.
I don't remember the rest of this stuff. You keep a whole laundry
I
list.
know there's, I
Of
get.
kind of going,
Well, for the golf, if for any reason we cannot finally include the golf club in the.
two challenges with that, right? One is it's.
Challenges there can be.
Two POS systems, so they don't talk. It's a bit of a challenge.
It's a Forties issue.
But,
And then,
but
Yeah.
and
work through on the golf.
right, so I think in reality, what we're really saying that for the 8 months, is that 4 pieces right in the front end. Is not so good on the back end, and we need to have a conversation
But
about
there's.
drills. Right, but that's all manually done, it's all manually done, they will
It's not
probably,
be a- it's not-
I'm not sure they will sign up to do another manual for us.
Will the
It's
cloud,
not done.
will the
Yes,
cloud
it is.
version?
Oh, it
Yes,
is.
it is.
Somebody's sitting there, you're paying somebody to sit.
Oh, we don't pay them, that's what it's used to, that was the original deal that we had.
Yeah.
You know, with our 900, if you look at it, your 900 actually comes up. It's incredible.
It's done manually, everyone.
So-
Yeah.
No one's sitting tight.
At the back,
We are, don't-
back, they really are.
Oh, really are.
Hand up.
Yeah.
Is that the-
Mara, Susan, Jonathan,
He's going in order.
Nikki, it's just, yeah, oh, anti-clockwise.
Hi, John Walker. Thank you so much for everything you guys do. I'm just gonna do like rapid fire. They're not 3 minutes.
Okay.
So, one, I think this is a failure on all of us. That we do football on Monday and Thursday nights. There is nobody there. It is empty. How do we have 32 people? Airbnb. And we can't get one person to go to the golf pro to watch football. That seems insane. How are we should be advertising this. We talk about revenue. How do we have 0 people? You're telling me there's not one to on vacation with this family that says, let me take a little break in the community, I can walk or wherever. But to get no one, that's a failure on all of us. Because Johnny does put a lot of effort into trying to make something. And the fact that we're doing it here and in the plaza, we don't have enough people to support one place, let alone 2. That's a complete waste of money. 2, golf. How are we at like 50% less than I think that's the problem, is that we're not charging it. Whatever the Omni's charging, we should get 25 to 30%. We are not 50% less of a force than the Omni. Member areas, John said about that. We want to get more annual pass holders, but at the prices they're charging, you're not gonna get anyone, $4,600, but then it's $33 to rent a car every rent. That's insane, the $33 to rent a car. Especially when you look at when we have rounds on golf now going for 60, that means a round of golf is $27. The cart is worth more than the round of golf. If we present ourselves like a craft municipal course, that's what we're gonna be known as. If we do things, we want to influence it and get people to play, like at the second public day, not a bad idea. And maybe try a different day every month to see what day actually brings in the most revenue if we were to do that. However, I also think that if we're giving the second public day, the members should be getting something back. Maybe like on weekends, public can't book till after 11, like when I originally got here, so it gives a semi-private club then. Because right now, this is a public conference. Public can book whenever, it's that we are. And then pickleball. We gotta find a way to, we just put in all these sports, so we need to find ways to make revenue off other things, not just golf. It can't be that hard to figure out how to make money off pickleball. We have 3,200 houses of Airbnb rented by the hour. I don't know what other places do it. That's just a loss for us. We literally put money into pickleball to get nothing back out of it.
That's not ours.
That's not ours.
That's not ours. Master, they're Thursday night at the noise.
It's also 3 minutes.
That's pretty much all I got. Thanks.
Thank you. We want to read.
Is it?
Tom.
Got five minutes.
Hi, I'm Nikki Clubman. So I just want to piggyback off what Jonathan said. I agree with an additional public fee. Unfortunate that the Gulf side is suffering so much. I see workflows and should be in other Gulf communities in the area. I'm just wondering, why are we shopping around for insurance? Does that goes up regardless every year with the inflation rate? And Florida has ISD. Why are we not getting multiple bids? Because they fund outdated. Also, when it comes to the other side and brief what Ann said, I think we should open up. There are people over there that come here with plaza owners. They would probably pay to come here whenever they want. I think maybe like 1 or 2 times a month. That's without the speed, maybe put a poll out to us on this side to find out how the majority feels about it instead of a handful. Will be beneficial as well. In terms of the budget, like I'm going to be listing my house because the HOV is getting out of control. They increase every year, it's not worth it. I want to golf. I can't golf. I'm not golfing morning afternoon on a hot day. I want to go early in the morning or just when the sun is setting, and I can't do it. All of its expenses are booked up, and I said last time, residents who pre-book in advance and then no show, they should be penalized for that. That would add more revenue as well. It's ridiculous. I paid for golfing, but I can't partake in it when I want to. And I've been for almost 5 years. It's ludicrous. Also, United Landscaping, they're okay. We need competitors. We really do. First residential, okay? Yeah, they're okay. I think we can save money on administrative salaries, definitely. I don't think First Services is doing the best job. I think we have more dollars in the plaza, if things improve there, has been gone downhill consistently every year since I've lived there. There are a lot of changes. We have a lot of new residents in the community. We're not appealing to them. And with the football nights, you would have the plaza or a golf course, not a boat, taking away from it. People who come here for the football, they also are golfers. So they'll go to the golf course. Let them go there because that's where the revenue is needed then. However, it needs to be done. I'm sure you guys can figure it out, but there are a lot of changes that need to take place. And I don't really see it in HOA people up way too much. Like the first 3 years I was there, they increased as much as possible, and all I saw was a decrease in quality of the code. It is difficult. And I do see where golf courses and other communities, there is HOA fees on. So I don't understand what we're doing for them. That's what I have to do.
We want to address these as we go along.
I'm Michelle Sear, I'm gonna tackle the plaza side. On the plaza side, we'll say increasing the $9 or the $75. We don't increase that. And the expenses here in the plaza are kind of out of control. Salaries, things like that, not sure why, I think if I'm correct, we have 2 chefs on staff. I think one here, one at the golf grill. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, we only have one. I thought we had one bread, we had 2, sorry. Quality of food, it's not exceptional. Chili's at best. Was about right, but for us, to spend our time in $100 a year it's a struggle. It's a struggle for us. And I'm probably gonna say, it's probably going to offend a few people, but unless you're a part of the plan, it's not a very welcoming and inviting place to come. So for us, we don't drink a lot, we don't do a lot of participating in things because there's not us. So to increase it any more than the $900 would force us to come here to spend money when we're not. That's what I think.
Thank you.
Hi all, I'm Doug there. As far as the golf side of it, I do strongly believe that we need to add a selling point. As James said, if it's not working, we can change it. But why not try it and see what it does? As far as the days, they did a study, and I know that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, if I'm correct, with the wholesalers, okay, that those are the days that they can sell the best. I don't know, I am an avid golfer, and we play a lot. Give me up an extra day a week, I can handle that. Just, and as far as the tee time and stuff like that, I'm not quite sure where people are struggling with getting tee times. I don't have an issue. In the summertime, tee time, the tee sheet wide open. So there's a lot of issue there. In winter time, yes, it's a little more challenging. Because of some of the other things that are tied into it. But if I'm correct in this, public, they can't play until, or start playing until 11 o'clock. Unless there are openings that we not take prior to that, and the public is not getting in on those times. Except for Mondays, which.
Thursday.
Well, Mondays for the morning times. Wouldn't go now.
So Monday we have 8:30, 8:40, 8:50.
Yeah, they have those 3 times that they
Yes.
pay premium. Which I think is great, but Mondays, we just do it. But me personally, I think we added an extra day. See how it goes, would be great if we can continue with it. But the other part of also, I agree with this, it sounds.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Bob Mayor. We're getting pretty close to being dual. But anyways, my only thing is, okay, we're gonna go add another day for the pump. That's gonna fix this issue. Costs are gonna go up next. Are we gonna get another day for the public next year? Ultimate plan to make this a public golf. That will end the people who build golf. That's all.
You wanna,
Bring it back. We're on. You could take it. So after you.
So just a couple of, would raise the insurance rate. So we actually work with a broker who gets multiple quotes, like a liability, and we got like 30 quotes last year. So we do get quotes across all our insurance programs. On the plaza opening up, a couple of years ago, we crossed this issue with our attorney. And basically, she pointed out like 4 or 5 things. One, we're not complying with the American Disabilities Act, so we're not a private club. If we open up, we gotta spend money, toilets, organize door openers, things like that. And she also believes in a member vote to open it up for the plaza. Obviously, you have to deal with cost of joining, because like, how do you do, like, obviously, you've got landscaping costs here, building cost, like, what do you price it at? So we have to figure out things along those things. And things are like, this is that code of Jeffrey, because again, one of our board members' names is on that liquor license. And, you know, if you open it up to, you know, for people outside of the community, do you introduce risk to the board, to the association, et cetera? So I think we just have to be careful about that. On the golf, you know, thing that just raised, actually, it's not the non-golfers. I feel like to some extent we're subsidizing the golfers. And I know that might sound harsh, but I don't think of it in terms of, you know, Florida salad, right? Florida salad here. I pay $13, Gene pays $13, Nancy pays $13. But at golf, when we know that there's a market rate for, you know, tee time, let's say it's 79, I pay 31. If that market rate is 189, and it's February, I pay 31. Right, so it's a different model. It's a discounted model we don't have.
It's our golf club. Alan,
But to your point, if we can't keep adding member play-ins, so the only other option is we charge more to golfers, or we divide by 937 and just accept that.
Alan, sorry. Can I have that?
Do we have any questions online?
Thanks. Could
There's some questions online, we gotta finish that.
Sorry, could I have that for a second? Sorry. There has to be a benefit to being a member, other than having to open our wallets all the time. I get your Florida salad analogy. Well, I don't get it actually, but I've heard it so often now at this stage. If we pay $31 in March, or we pay $31 to play in August, all through the year, we're supporting, we're playing, we're paying our HOA fees. It's different. This year, John McTighe sat down and did data on public play. And we are now selling our public play at a substantially higher rate than we were. I honestly think sometimes the ethos of this current board at the minute is sell it cheap and sell lots of it. And that's not what we want. Expenses are an issue, but we have when this place started selling and this golf course opened, it was the seventh wonder of the world over here. People were killing themselves to come in and play. And John was right. It had the hospitality, it had the cachet, people wanted to play. If we keep selling it out to these $30 or $40, this bloody Sparks thing, $26, we don't want those people playing in our course. They're the ones that are damaging it. This year we've had carts upended in bunkers. We've had guys falling into things. It's not what we want. We need to sell it as a premium product, which it is. And people will pay for a premium product. But every time I drive it by the Omni, it's full. Southern Dunes, you can't get into Southern Dunes in the winter. There is not an awful lot of difference between our club and Southern Dunes. And I know somebody has said to me here that there is, but I'm telling you there's not. But I can't tell you what is the big difference between here and Southern Dunes is our house prices are a lot higher here than they are in Southern Dunes. And that's something. The more your golf course is in demand, the higher your house prices are going to be. All you have to do is look at Legends, you look at Highlands, you look at Southern Dunes, you look at Kings Ridge. I can call them all out to you. Our golf course has to be the jewel in our crown. And we have to treat it like the jewel in the crown, not like the janitor sitting in the brushing out the broom cupboard in the evening.
And I don't disagree with the value of the course. Where I think we disagree is you argue how valuable the course is. We should be selling it 25% of the Omni's rate or whatever. But then as members, we're only willing to pay 31. That's where I.
That's our perk. For
Right.
people who,
But the perk would be great if that was not then divide another one 937 to cover the difference.
Yeah, but-
Right?
yeah,
So like,
but Alan, the higher price, higher house, if you have a 4-3 in West Haven, a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house in West Haven, you are getting a much higher price for. Okay. West Haven's not a good example. Highlands is a good example. This is a golf course community. So if you have a 4-bedroom, 3-bath in Highlands, it's on a golf course community. The price is a lot higher than it would be in a non-golf course community. Okay? But the golf course has to, people have to realize, even if they don't play, being in a golf community and living on a golf course is what's having value to their property.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's not an argument. I do think the golf course has value to the homes. But I also think that if our HOA was lower, that would add value to the homes as well. So it's a combination of that.
Country club, where if that's the case, then you're gonna end up like Legends.
No, again.
No, Alan, I'm telling you.
A viable golf course, right? And the reason we're viable today is because we have 2.7 million of public play. Without that public play, everybody's assessment will be $3,000 higher, right? That's just fact, right?
I'm not saying we shouldn't have public play, but I'm saying that members who contribute here 365 days a year have to have a benefit. And that's the benefit.
So long as
At this rate,
It's a
Councillor,
discount,
why would we
right?
sell
I just
6
think
days a week?
too heavily discounted, right? So when I look at those numbers, we're paying 20% of market rate to play the golf course.
We
What
are,
do you mean discount?
Alan,
Discount for a homeowner?
Alan,
No, essentially like, I can sell a tee time, right? And let's say we can sell it higher than what we currently have in price. Let's just use $200. Right? I can sell a tea time Saturday morning for $200, right? I can put that tea time for 31. Like, if you had a piece of inventory, you had an asset that you could get.
What
$200
31
for.
are you talking about for you to rent a cart?
For me to play as a member. So it's like, I think.
So they're the ones who rent the cart.
Yes, or round speed, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
So first, I think in February. If the association can get $200 for it, I think I should pay $100 for it. So that's a great deal, right? That's 50% off. I'm sure in Mystic Dunes or whatever, any of these places, you pay more than
I'm
that.
already paying $900 a month in HOAs to have the benefit.
But that $900 you pay in HOAs covers so.
But I
much
wouldn't have
other
moved
stuff.
here, but then I wouldn't have moved here. I wouldn't be spending $900 a month in an HOA if it wasn't for the golf. I wouldn't be. Which I assume most people wouldn't be either.
And yeah, I'm saying we has to.
But so that's double dip. You're trying to double charge.
No, no. Well, right now we're doing, so again, I would use the example, when you come to the plaza.
Yeah.
You pay $13, if you can open it up to the public, they pay $13 for a burger, or salad, whatever. Under this logic, we charge a member like $2, $3, right? And then we'd ask everybody else to make up the difference.
No, that's not at all.
Golf.
But we're spending. No,
No,
that's,
I think we should go to.
that's not how it works at all.
No, it's not how it works.
So somewhere in that.
Right, we're not on an even playing field. We've already spent $900 a month for the ability to be a member at Champions Gate Country. That's why we're paying $900 a month. It's not for Spectrum. It's not for the security. It's part of it. No, it's part of it.
Let's just, one at a time, let's talk one at a time, or the gentleman over here has the floor. Yeah, just for 3 minutes, let's do that.
How you doing, guys? Vincent Murray. I find it incredulous, guys, that after signing a new contract with FSR, we're built in 4% per annum increase. We have United with Landscape at 3% here.
Oh, 0 for 2026.
That is,
That's great.
3%.
oh, that's great.
Good job.
So we're got these multi-million-dollar contracts that increase by 4% a year. We've got healthcare by 10%. Find it incredulous that you're talking about, we're not gonna have an increase this year because we can't do. We can sell an extra day in golf, but what are we going to do next year? We're going to sell a third day. Next year, another 4% to FSR, 3% United, that's a fourth day. Okay, and Alan, I think you need to hold back your rhetoric with golf club. I have never put a toe in that pool out there. I have no problem paying for it. It was there when I joined. I knew what I was responsible for. I don't play pickleball. I don't go to gym. I have no problem supporting those. Okay? The golf course has been signaled that you sell more. Okay? You can sell it as cheap as can be, and it will turn into a cesspit up there. I see guys riding around outside members. I see guys riding around on roads, bottoms, on the golf carts with crates in here. This is what we're getting when we sell $50 around. And I'm sorry, that's a fact. So it's all down the rhetoric about golf, we support, no sport, by $13 bar salad that you keep talking about. You'll be trying to realize all of this together. We get a 4% increase built into contracts, 3% built into contracts. Unless we cut costs or raise money, we can't have a case where we have no increase. Okay? And again, plans can't single, golf can't single, pickleball can't single. We're community together, we should be working together. Thank you.
Hi, how are you? I'm Cecilia. So I just wanted to speak to the point of, I recently purchased here. I purchased last December. So from someone who's fairly new, I just mentioned that the HOA fees, it does have an impact because I almost didn't here because I'm a finance person. Numbers are my thing. I'm a CFO. I run multiple companies. Why would I? I just paid off my house here last week. So I'm looking here and it says in 10 years from now, it could be $1,596. In what world would someone with a brain want to pay that much? And I understand. I don't live here full time. I'm here probably 1.5 weeks out of the month. I live in New York. I have young children. Unfortunately, I don't have time to play golf. I'm sure all of you enjoy it, but for me, I chose here because of the amenities. But at a certain point, when is enough? And like I said, this is coming from someone who purchased in October, in December, and now I'm already like, did I make that right decision? And trust me, it's beautiful. I love it. I have nothing better. Like I enjoy coming here, but at the end of the day, it's a numbers thing for me. And I don't even get a 4% raise at work now. So it's just something I just wanted to throw that out there. I figured, might help someone.
Good evening, I'm Sharon Mayon. Just a few things because I didn't write anything down. I want to go back to what Leo said. There is a lot of people here who are retired, and I get to talk to them, and a lot of the people do say, I think I'm interested in maybe looking on, it's getting too high for the HOA. So I have to agree with you there. And I think everybody's situation is a little bit different. And some people don't mind paying $25 more, $50 more, but other ones they have to really watch. One of the other things I can go back to your comment about the events at the plaza and the golf club with bringing those people in. I don't know what the problem is. Like the writers, the people that are over the tree. Do they know about the golf club?
I don't think so.
Because I'm there, I swim there 4 times a week, and I never see any handouts or nothing.
Right.
And I think they come with the tree. The only thing I can think of that, I'm not really sure if you would want to post one, because you would get everyone. And I think some people find them there and so forth. I don't know if that's the type of person I want to raise the golf course. Or do we just try to get the word out to people that own the image?
Anything will do, because there's 0 people. I actually feel horrible for Johnny, because he goes through the work of setting it up. The only people there ever are me, Nancy, Brad, and Tom. That's it.
And it's really hard to work,
Right, correct. It's actually losing.
Third comment I have is I was here at Plaza and I kind of bought as many of the events that we have here. The last 2 times I had company and I came in an hour early and there was no seats. I couldn't leave. There was not a big there, everything was sitting on. So if you're looking for extra revenue, how are we gonna do that? We don't even have enough tables. And with that, people sit together. I can understand that.
Karen, can you talk louder?
No, I'm sorry, I'm not cold, so I was.
Oh, okay.
So if people want to sit together, which I can understand, you know, have friends here and so forth. We should have longer tables, because with the round tables, when they put them together, they're losing almost 4 spaces. And yeah, I saw people walking in an Oktoberfest, and they came up here to enjoy the music and so forth. They walked out and I heard them saying, I'm not coming back here. They went to another restaurant because they couldn't eat, and there's no room for them. So I think that's something that we have to look at, going forward. And the other thing down here is, I've been here for 2 years, I've never had anybody ask me, hey, would you like some dessert? I'm always saying is, how about being a little bit more proactive, asking people, you know, hey, or having a tray. I go out to dining and they have a tray with the desserts on it. I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen.
Online?
Yeah, we have a lot of comments online. Okay, go ahead, Jean.
I'm Gene Walker. Just a couple comments. As far as I'm one of those that is on fixed income, if you keep the HOA increases below inflation rate, you know, I'm okay with that. Maybe not every year, but you know, that's tolerable. It's when it goes up by 2, 3, 4 times, that's where it's a problem. One thing we don't publicize that I think we should get more credit for is our golf course never has a cart path only. That might be a selling point. I don't know if there's any way to get that word out to people that are cooking tea times. But that's a big thing for people, especially in summer, to know that you can go the next day after these huge storms and still play the course and not sloshing around. Big advantage of our course for others. And I did agree about having square tables instead of round tables with those. And the last thing, I mentioned this in other forums, but I'd like to say here is we've got things backwards, having the restaurant for the community here and the small one down at the golf trail. There was a way to switch it. And we have a private area for our residents, so just an idea to throw out there. Say the golf pro shop was in a different, smaller building, while closer to the course, and their area was private for members, and the rest of the area would be for anybody from the outside community, and that was a big restaurant. You might get more business and be able to have better selections and still have the community part and use this building as more of a gathering place for community members with just a small like grill with just simple things, having about drinks and whatever. And you can still have parties here and use all this space and have more room for meetings or whatever else. So before we spend a lot of money changing all these, like we're putting the screens, the extension down there, and now we're talking about the same up here, thinking about, are we gonna make the switch at some point to be able to bring the outside public for the restaurants and get extra business that way before we spend a lot more money on them and, you know, but here, think about that at that time.
Thank you. I'm not going to use the microphone. Everyone's okay. I'm not going to use the microphone, but I am going to project. So can everyone hear me? Okay. I'm going to be reading the comments online. If we raise the food minimum, are we able to eliminate the increase in HOA fees? I think that was discussed already. We do not want to see increases in the HOA fee. Make it an even $100. Close the plaza Monday and Tuesday. $100 and we get to spend it at the golf club as well. I don't think homeowners want HOA fees to increase. Maybe we start to talk about doing away with food service altogether and use the clubhouse for meeting facilities. To make up the 27, you would need to pay over $50 a month. 8 times 3.5 equals 28. The costs, if a need to reduce, wouldn't closing the plaza in the slower days reduce the need for an increase in any subsidy? Major expense is admin charge of $3 million per year. Agree. Everyone has talked about increases, but nobody has talked about where we can make savings first. Surely this is what we do first, then look at what we need to make up. Also need to understand when the reserve fund will stabilize so that the monthly can be reduced. I wonder how much Curtis is costing us and need to take stock year end on what exactly they have accomplished. The course needs a little TLC. We definitely should look at ways to lower costs rather than raising HOA fees every year. Is the board the decision makers or facilitators of these issues and decisions? Do we know how far in advance public play is booked out? A second public day may not increase more public play. Buyers will shy away from purchase if HOA is high. If you drop the HOA, it will increase the appeal to buyers. The expenses need to be scrutinized. Revenue can't be the only lever. The HOA is not the only issue, but the key to it is that it keeps going up every year. If we want to have a welcoming community, we need to find ways to stop the continual increases each year and show stability. It's crazy to say that the HOA fee has almost no bearing on whether a house is going to be sold or not. We need a Doge approach to take out unnecessary admin and other expenditures.
Irene.
I'm sorry, we have a reply to.
Ready?
All right, hold on. All right. I cannot speak for everyone, but in Country Club 5, in regards to the retreat, Curtis has made a tremendous difference. It is like night and day. Fully understand, but we need to get Curtis's costs. 4 areas that seem to be driving the costs: course maintenance, management fees, amenities, and golf revenue. In the short term, it seems like spending more in these areas will not have a net benefit for many of us in the next 3 to 5 years. Buyers will shy away from purchase if HOA is high. If you drop the HOA, it will increase the appeal to buyers. Sorry, I've read this already. It's crazy to say that the HOA has almost no bearing on whether a house is going to be sold. We need a Doge approach. I read that. Sorry.
Replies though.
There replies, yeah. Agreed, it will only sell if the HOA fees get too high. HOA does affect the overall attraction to buying in this community. Like the 3 treadmills in the gym were fully serviced and 2 weeks later replaced with 3 new ones. The board has to find a way to cut 10% spending instead of finding how to raise the HOA. That should be their mandate, not try to tell us what an increase is required. I came into the meeting late. What's the proposed amount? It would seem like and all of the above strategy would work best. Open the second day of public play and lower the other costs. The effects on property values that these HOA fees, including the Master and Oasis, on many properties here really needs to be taken into more serious consideration. The golf course is an asset only to a point, and that point seems to have passed for many other owners. That's a lot. I would rather increase the food credit than do a regular HOA increase and essentially get nothing out of it. Need to evaluate cost savings measuring first. Clearly, this is not sustainable. The golf course is what keeps your property values higher than average. Keep things the way they are for $27 a month, or cut head count by 10% if cutting costs is a priority. Why are they adding people when you can't pay for them? Why are you making money, then hiring them? Cost of living increase only. We need to try 2 days of public play and evaluate after 1 year. It is not 100% wrong that the HOA fee is not affecting home value, sorry. It is 100% wrong that the HOA fees is not affecting home values and sales. It has been the #1 reason that houses are not selling at certain price points in the community. This is also driving houses at or below that point further down. At the HOA, as the HOA, including the other two, edges closer to mortgage payments, it becomes more difficult for a buyer to justify paying that fee unless you are giving the property away. Agreed. Can I offer a competitive quote on the insurance? We all have Ring camera security. Why do we need SWS? I think we should just go to a pay-as-you-play plan. That way everyone pays the same amount. So trail fee people pay $25 a round and non-trail fee pay $35. I have carriers that are more competitive. Going back to the insurance. SWS is not monitored. SWS sucks. Fire them. SWS, they are the alarm people, costing $16 a month. Silly question, but maybe, but is there outside pickleball and tennis being played? If so, can that create a revenue stream? Pickleball has grown a lot recently. Exactly. If there is a lot of outside play, put a code on the gate for homeowners and a credit card scanner on the second gate for outsiders. Did Alan just say he thinks the board is aligned on something? LOL. Ditto. Another relatively new owner. My SWS equipment was non-functional when I took ownership, and my calls to them are never resolved. So I installed an ADT system and pay for monitoring separately. I am all for ending the SWS contract at the soonest possible convenience. My security has never worked. They don't come to resolve it, or for that matter, even return a call. I had to pay a private service for my security monitoring and emergency response. Why do we keep paying for them? Maybe go with another alarm company that is actually responsive. Our SWS just beeps at will. Only way we remember that we have the system. Not sure if we have found the Lennar contract with them yet. Try a second public play for a year, cut plaza menu and hours for a year, cut staffing and salaries. We have nothing to lose and everything to gain. I agree with the notion of testing a second public play day for a finite time frame, 3 to 6 months, and then evaluate the impact on quantitative measures, direct and indirect revenues, and qualitative measures such as member play feedback. Then you make a thoughtful decision on whether to continue this or go back to the prior approach. Going back to the SWS contract, someone says it is a locked contract for X amount of years by Lennar. I believe it is for monitoring as well, but not for the app that would ping you. Correct, not for service assistance or replacement. No monitoring, that is an extra fee through SWS. The alarm just goes off locally without an extra fee. Good to know. It is useless as Ring can do that. So then again, why is there a monthly fee if the system was installed when the houses were built? The equipment isn't updated, but it can be hooked up to another alarm pad. There is no good answer. In short, it is because of the terrible contract that was signed by Lennar. Some of the fee is for common equipment at the plaza, etc. So that's actually 2 separate contracts. My guess is that it is then for the equipment installed and we pay monthly. Can I just speak on something with the SWS contract?
Yeah.
So just because I've obviously been dealing with SWS for the last number of years. So the way that the agreement with SWS is for the monitoring service. So for example, as many people have said, if their system is out, if your system does not work because it is out of date, it is the it is the homeowner's responsibility to replace that system because SWS is only contracted to provide the monitoring service. So I know a lot of homeowners don't have a working system in their home. If you did, they would be able to monitor your home, but it's not SWS's responsibility through their contract to replace your system at no charge. So that's why there is an additional cost for that. I'm not saying that SWS has a good service. I'm just stating what the contract
Like
is.
if you do it on an individual basis, so.
Right. Correct. Yeah.
It will be less.
Yeah. Yeah, so anything additional that you need from them is at a cost. They are only contracted to provide a monitoring service. Yes, correct. Yeah, so also they prefer that you use, so the way that the contract was set up with SWS for service was through their website work order system. When you call SWS's office, they intentionally don't answer because it's an automated voicemail system. They want you to leave a voicemail and that voicemail turns into a electronic ticket that's entered on their website.
System. They've said that never download. I think like
Yeah.
$5 a month.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know about that. So, but anyway, again, it's just to clarify what the SWS contract and agreement is. That one are put in place. Why are we wasting all of this time for $27? Golf leagues should play on the off hours, not the prime sellable hours between 8 and 11 a.m. on weekends. Because it will be over $100 when the master and the Oasis HOAs increase as well. So no cutting services, cut the fat and trim the labor by 10% easy. Also in 5 years, the HOA with the addition of the reserve fund has increased by almost 200%. If someone can't afford a $27 or a $100 a month increase, they had better look at their finances with a little more diligence. I'm just reading the comments.
Right.
Just because we can afford it doesn't mean we should throw it away towards a needless HOA increase. That's bad financial planning. Save pennies so you can spend dollars. Okay. Doesn't the golf course cost exponentially more than the plaza and other amenities? Wouldn't that be why it is always the focus? Of course, everything should be under the microscope, but that seems to be why golf is always at the forefront. We can't cut the cheap golf play for the 300 who play all the time. I'm happy to subsidize it even if I don't play. Just throwing out a possible answer for why golf is always at the top of the list. You want to save money, be efficient with the labor cost and cut headcount or stop talking about $27 a month. I understand nobody wants to let anybody go, but that's really the only way to save money. No one will even notice. I would vote for just paying the $27 a month and stop talking about an insignificant amount of money. I need to go get some popcorn. This is a lot of talk for $27 a month.
Right. And
Not every area of the country club has home values increasing. It is, this is the problem here. It is a different community based on how far you are from the clubhouse. Property values of homes near me have dropped to equal to or below what I paid 5 years ago. Maybe you should think about separating Country Club 1 and 2 from the others. Then you can keep the golf course and divide the costs by half of the homes. Why aren't we recognizing the value of in-season tee times versus summer tee times that no one wants? We change guest fee rates based on season. Golf cart fee for members could be $40 from November to March and only $20 off season to better reflect the market demand. Well, then they must click delete on those electronic tickets the second it comes through. And finally, not to keep beating a dead horse,
I'm good.
but SWS has told me that they do not actively monitor anything. They stated that the monitoring that they provide was that the alarm would just sound, I'm sorry. To have it actively monitored, they wanted $35 extra a month.
Good, so pay for that.
And we do have one person online wishing to speak. I'm going to ask them to unmute. You should be able to unmute at this time. Go ahead.
Who's that?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
This is Tom Phelan. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Alan, the board, and First Services for putting the presentation together, because it's no unenviable task to put a budget request together from this. So thank you for all that and all the what if scenarios that you did run on the budget. So I appreciate that. My question is, what is the next step after the town hall regarding the budget?
What is the actual group, Stephanie? So hopefully we'll come out of this town hall with some direction to either 27, from 0 to 27.
Can you hold the mic a little bit away, Alan? You're really
Is that
muffled.
better, Tom?
Yeah, that's better. Thanks.
Okay, sorry. So November 3rd would be the budget vote. Materials have to go out.
The postmarked by, so the budget mailing needs to be postmarked by October 20th, which is 2 weeks prior to the budget meeting. So next Monday.
So Tom, we need to hopefully leave this meeting with where we are between the 27 that's currently proposed, or 0, or somewhere in between. And then we would push that through these documents, and then that would be included in the mailing October 20th for a vote on November 3rd.
Okay, so you're saying November 3rd, there'll be a vote on the budget by the board?
Yes.
Okay. My follow-up question then is, why is this board, the current board, why did you get 2 budgets to vote in? And shouldn't the new board have a say-so, whoever the new board's going to be, shouldn't that board have a say-so? Because now the new board gets a budget handed to them that they have no say-so in it.
I can answer that.
Okay.
Tom, it's Neil. I think the rationale was that the new board comes in and have had no input into creating the budget, and purely are just coming in and having to approve it. So the view was that it would be more beneficial for the existing board, who had been in place for a year, to go through that budget, approve it, because they're the ones who have had the input into that, rather than the new board coming in who've had no sides of it. That was the rationale.
Okay, and
Sorry,
to me,
Tom.
go
Sorry.
ahead, Liesl.
Yeah. Sorry, I just want to be clear, that wasn't a discussion that was made by the board, that was a decision that was made by some board members without any discussion. I personally think that it's not fair on a board to have to implement a budget on which they have had absolutely no input. Neil, James, me, last year we were all given the courtesy by the previous board of being able to have an input in the budget and then pass it. And I think you've done a great disservice to the incoming board, and I think that needs to be noted.
I got that one.
Yeah, and that was
Well,
Lisa.
I got that one, thanks.
Yeah.
So last year, Neil and Lisa were not on the board, and the idea was that the budget would have occurred prior to the vote in 2024, and logistically we couldn't do it. Then when we're talking, Lisa, about what was decided, we floated an email and we went through, And you'll remember that John said through that this is a busy time of the year when people are going through their budgets. So either contract should, or the election should occur after the budget. So I'm not,
Sorry, James. John said that because at that stage, it was so late, because I actually spoke to Stephanie in July, and she told me she had been asking you and Neil about it, and she hadn't had a response. So at the, sorry, hang on.
We're talking
At the
about
end of
elections,
July.
or are we talking about the budget?
Yeah,
Which one you going to?
Because
The elections,
we should have a new board seated, so that they have the courtesy of having an input into a budget that they have to implement.
So
Now,
I-
it wasn't a discussion, it was an email. It was Neil's email that said that as far as he was concerned, it was unfair to have an incoming board, even though that's been the way it's been since we started. But so please do not say that that was a board discussion.
we all responded.
There was no discussion. What was the point? It was, the decision was done. Nobody had called the election, and we had to.
So,
No.
so hang on here. So let's back up. You asked in July about when to have the vote for the
Yes.
election. That's when Neil set out about having the budget occur prior to that election. If we would have called the 60 days in July, it would have been in September. That's when all of us got involved in the email of saying where we would be in terms of timing, etc. And as John pointed out, because that's what we tried to do last year, and we just couldn't make it happen.
John pointed,
Good job.
yeah, I know,
Yeah.
and John pointed it out purely because it was so late. That's why because we had to have 60 days, am I right?
Well, so when we were having this discussion in 2024, you're saying moving it, we wanted to move the budget to after the election, you're saying that that's different now this year? I'm not following.
To move the budget approval after the election.
No, the budget approval, sorry, move the election to after the budget approval. Because that's what we talked about last year, we just couldn't do it.
No, last year we couldn't do it, but this year.
So this year we could do it because we had enough time, so we did it.
No, yeah, I know, you did it.
No,
You did.
no.
No.
I know you want to make this about me. It's not about me.
James,
It's not really
seriously,
about
James,
me.
don't flatter
This is
yourself,
about-
this is about you.
But you're
What
right.
I'm saying is,
Hang on, Lisa, I got the microphone right now.
okay,
We sent around an email about when to do it, and it came back, we agreed.
I asked why we weren't having the election, and that was,
Right,
that was.
does it matter who started the vote or who started the chain?
Well, it would have been nice to have had an actual discussion with the board as to why we are delaying the election for so long.
I thought Neil said it out.
Sorry?
I thought you in this email said it out.
No, Neil said that, no. Well, okay, well then, that's evidently gospel, that's fine, it's not a problem. Sorry, Tom, sorry, I beg your pardon.
Okay. All right, can I get back to my points?
Sorry, Tom.
And hopefully this doesn't cut into my 3 minutes. But why I was asking it, as a homeowner, I don't appreciate a board getting 2 budget cycles. And it doesn't seem to me that this budget is being ramrodded through because the current board has a 3-2 majority. And I don't think that's fair. And I just want to make sure that the public, the Champions Gate public know that this was done because they have the James, Neil, and Alan have the majority vote and they can get this budget through. So I just want to let everybody aware of that. And I'm very displeased of how the whole election process and the budget process went through. That's all I have to say.
Nothing else on. Do you have any other comments in the audience?
Ooh, I just have a quick question. Out of the HOAs, how much is given towards golf? Out of our $900 HOA every month, how much goes towards golf? Well, because I think people are under the impression that it's like 300 to 400 a month that's going towards golf, and it's not.
69. 69.
69.
So out of 900, just so everyone knows, $69 is going towards golf. It's not like when people bitching at the golf part, it's not that $300-400 are going from your HOAs to golf. which is also our only revenue source as we've seen.
Robin?
Hold on, we're gonna use the mic. Hold on, Robin, hold on 1 second, we're gonna use the microphone. No, we wanna use the microphone. They can't hear you online.
I was trying to be quiet through this whole thing, okay? And I'm tired of being involved against the clock. We are one, thank you. We are a community that was when I first moved here, united. And now it's been golf and plaza, and I'm just. Okay, we need to be one community, not what's best for the community. Okay?
Yes.
And we need
In the
to,
mic.
I don't wanna, okay, I don't wanna be golf, and I don't wanna be plaza and this and that. We need to be one and a whole, okay? And our salary budget line is ridiculous. I'm sorry. I worked in a school district and our salary lines were nothing compared to what this is. Okay, so that's where we need to.
Anything else in the audience? Any board members? John?
Yeah, just one thing. In regards to approving the budget and so forth before the new board comes on. The thing that really isn't shared here is that there's at least 2 board members that returns the following year. So they have the experience and the knowledge with regards to what's been going on in the previous year. The 2 or 3 board members that get elected can be brought up to date by those individuals. And then they can work together to create a budget. I understand. You try to get the budget in as soon as possible. And I have said this because I do this for a living. You have a certain time of year that you need to get it done so that you get notification out to them. So that, hey, they have the opportunity to make any changes in regards to their finances or whatever is going to be withdrawn out of their accounts for that process and check processing and so forth. But you have to get it done as quickly as possible.
Also, there's no further business. No turn.
I do have one question. Yes, can I ask? I
Go ahead.
just want to know, why did we move the election back? Why didn't we keep the election time the same? Every place else. They probably can hear me.
I just want to know what is the rationale behind changing the timing of the election? You don't change the times of elections anywhere for any reason unless there's something crucial or critical that's happening. So please explain why there was a move to make a change.
So as we discussed, it was to move the election to after the budget. And the reason being is this 5 sitting board members would know what has transpired in the last 11 months, or 10 months, I guess, of the current year. So to go back to the comment that no board should ever do 2, well, this will only ever happen once. Because at some point when you make the change.
Is it gonna be in the bylaws? The timing?
Well, it's in the bylaws, and what's in the bylaws is the election needs to occur in a calendar year. It needs to occur for the annual general meeting. Technically, yeah, it's already there until December 31. Yes, but no change to it. You need anything from today.
So we need to decide what to put in to finalize the budget. Right? Because we're not gonna have another board meeting before the 3rd. Or we put it together and then we vote. A or B. Okay. So do we go with 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 plus that, or do we?
Even, is it?
So the proposal would be, my proposal again would be 100K give back, get 100K from golf, the public day. And 100K from expenses. And then fund the community enhancement for the 25K.
That's good.
We have 75 in the wish list.
Sorry, We haven't heard from FSR all night about this. Guys, can you give us some input? Please.
Is there a specific question you want me to answer?
Oh. When I look at the monthly accounts, the plaza never looks so healthy. Now all of a sudden it's hale and hearty and glowing. And I would just like to see how much of an input FSR had into this budget, and I'd like to hear their side, but we're paying them a lot of money to manage the community.
So thank you, John McDine, Regional Accounting Director for Service. So our input on the board or for this budget prep, we provided a few different scenarios to the board. Looking at what Alan was presenting, different scenarios of what a $75 food and beverage credit would look like all the way up to $125. We put our prep as far as an internal budget review goes. I met with all the department heads, kind of up with what their wish list was, what they need to operate their departments, kind of looking at what that would look like, and then scale it back. The approach that I usually take to this is trying to tie labor percentages specifically to like the restaurants. We want to try to be within a certain ratio of our expenses to the labor rate. So when I sit down with like James, for instance, and he tells me this is what I need to run the plaza based off of, let's just say a 50% labor rate, this is what the revenue needs to be. Is this realistic? Yes or no, based off historicals? The obvious answer is always no. So how do we scale that back? What do we do to get that back in mind? So we really have two options, in my opinion. We raise food and beverage minimum and we play those scenarios out, or we look at cutting hours if we're looking to reduce the number of hours. Our biggest struggle, I think, at the class the first week is that we're a two shift operation. And if we're looking to reduce the headcount, or not headcount, but the labor hours, that would be a way to reduce that. And we could provide them some more scenarios to the board on how that probably would be.
we two shifts.
Those are just ideas that we're looking at as a collective group, and we'll present to that and in all the different scenarios. So everybody takes it into consideration that we are looking at different things, we are making our own proposal. We actually had our own budget, and then we kind of merged the two budgets together with even now. And then that's kind of how it's adapted into a final proposal. For what we're going to vote on that. So, we do get our input. Obviously, at the end of the day, it's up to the board to adopt those things and to vote on that. But that is kind of the way we've taken this year is, collective approach from what we think needs to be the operations, posting it to Alan and the board, and then you guys vote on that. But that's kind of some of the ideas that we've come up with as a collective group, or ideas of how we can try to cut labor and hours of operation, maximize our hours of operation, and things like that. So I'm looking at that.
Anyway. Well, things that's awesome. Okay, we have the same event year to year and the same state. You run out of year, we run out of food, you don't have this available, you don't have that available. So I'm just a little concerned that if it hasn't changed so far, what can we achieve?
So just from a financial standpoint, I can, it's hard to plan for these things. Let's look at certain events like Super Bowl party. Right, we had 60 people RSVP for a Super Bowl party, so we prepared for X amount of guests. And when half the guests don't show up, we're stuck with that group, right? So all of these events are difficult to project attendance, especially when we don't do like a registration at the time and things like that. So there's ideas that we're looking at and trying to predict what those costs are going to be and try to make some of the events a little bit more predictable to be able to control costs in that regard. But when it's an open invitation, we have to have preparations for it, and then something takes off, something hits, it works out well, and maybe we're not prepared for it, and then we learn from that, we try to improve it. But it is a difficult thing to plan for every single event and make sure everything is there, especially if it's a specialty product. That can happen. just for example, Oktoberfest, obviously, there's a specific beer. You know, once that runs out, you know, it runs out of it, so.
So.
Also limited storage space.
So that last year, we now share every year. And we're gonna have.
I mean, those are always the balances that we're looking at.
So they know exactly.
It's always open for discussion.
Thanks, John. How are your food contracts? I see US Food next discussion.
So we use a company called Vivian Provista. So what we do is we leverage first service relationship as full. So when we go to these food purveyors, we're not shopping as just Champions League. We're shopping as first service as full, so we're leveraging all workflows to solidify pricing for our individual food and beverage industry. So we do have preferred vendors, as you mentioned, US Food, Cisco, Cheney Brothers, they are our primary ones that give us the best bulk discount based on our relationship, but then we do reach out to other vendors for specialty products that, you know, if we're having something like our Wine on Wednesdays, we'll reach out to I mean, obviously the flavor it's a little bit different, but if we're doing specialty foods, you know, we might have to pull in another vendor for that, but we do use Vivian for this to try to leverage our relationship and with the company. That way you guys are maximizing in bulk pricing. Actually.
So that's why I'm curious.
Yeah.
Because I've never heard of it.
So Vivian Provista is just, it's like the wholesaler for that, yeah.
Not gonna tell them what I do.
I got you.
But
I got you.
so that's.
But that's the relationship we use.
My. No.
Debbie, did you have anything to add? I'm good if you're okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you're fine, don't worry, that's what I'm here for.
There's no further business, you can. Adjourn.
That's our list.
So yeah, I do have a couple answer on where we as a board see the HOA fees between 47 currently or something like that. Directionally, again, we have to vote on November 3rd, so we can do something, and again, if a budget doesn't pass, so let's say we had a 2-2 at state or something, then it's just like 5% increase, which is above where we are now, so we don't miss something about that. But so yeah, really, what do we put into the budget that's gonna get sent out on October 20th to the homeowners?
That I need to mail out or prepare by like Wednesday.
Yes, yeah.
2 days.
But it's fast to turn, I mean, we can run through the models and it's
Yeah.
like, the numbers will happen quickly.
Yeah.
But it's just, you know, I mean, or do we just put placeholders? The give back's easy, right? But that we could put it in, too much, disagreement with that one. It'll be around golf expenses. If we just put placeholders, say we need 100K from golf. And then that's public play days, they usually graduate, there's probably other. That is, so go and pay for expenses and then figure out what for service where it's come from.
So if you're asking me, you know, continue to be at the 0. So with the 100, 300, right? The 100 on the expense reduction, the 100 on the golf, the 100 on the gift back. And I guess we'll regular the 25 and enhancement 75 towards that wish list.
And then just to confirm your earlier commentary, you would leave trail fees, card fees, everything else, so you would just modify that as well. That's sort of your.
Yes. Yes, because I think that this 100 on the, I think we have to give, we're using another day for the public. We're gonna look at it. So in the intro, leave the existing fees across the board of the CRT and NPF. Trail fee, whatever the other ones are. I leave that constant from 25 to 26. And then look at what the impact of the second public play day is, because in that way, if the member is disrupted, right, then there hasn't been an increase as well to that, so I think it's kind of a workable scenario. But I do hear your point, Bill, eventually get to the floor, but I think I don't think we're ready for that yet.
So if I understand correctly, what's being suggested is 100,000 give back from this year's fund. 100,000 expense reduction. And 100,000 for an extra public play golf.
So it's net because we wouldn't be taking the increase.
Which would then 0 out of 27. Okay.
When we say give back, does everyone know what we mean? When we say give back, right, so.
Excess.
So the excess when revenue was above 25 budget or expenses were below, so there's an additional funds from 25. So we could do something with that, so instead of, we're just gonna move it into 26 to lower the HOA.
Not moving over, some stuff.
Not all of it. Well, some is enhancement, some is wish list.
Yeah.
And then,
For John, yeah, to John's point earlier, some will go on a wish list and some will go on the community enhancement. 75 and 25 respectively.
Nothing goes for either.
so,
Not under that scenario.
not under this scenario, we don't have the reserve study.
Yeah, I would, in regards to what's been presented, I would be in support of that with the caveat that your second golf day would not be on a weekend because that allows the opportunity for the members to play. And that it would be reevaluated or reviewed every 60 days or the first 60 and then 90 to see where that's bringing us, to see if it is doing what it is that we wanted to do or hope for us to do.
I'm still, sorry, I would still be in favor of the plans of spend increasing and not have such a big HOA. Is what I would, if we're gonna do a second golf day, it can't be a weekend like that, it needs to be monitored every 60 days.
Okay, that's enough. Yep.
Okay, so we don't need to vote on that, right? We're not doing that.
No voting right now.
Whoa. Okay. So if there's anything, nothing else, yeah, motion to adjourn,
Okay, motion.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Anybody want, they're still serving food.
So.
Please,
Oh.
she's been sharing.